Hello, this is Joan with Coffee Reviews, and today we will be reviewing Day 10 of KaffeBox's Advent Calendar, featuring the Finca El Paraiso Special Fermentation Processed Colombia from Jacu Coffee Roastery. And there's the container right there. Alright, and for 100% honesty and transparency, I try to be as honest and straightforward with everything I do on this channel. This is the first coffee from this Advent Calendar I actually saw all the information for before I brewed this coffee. What happened was last night I was looking at which coffee roastery I was going to be using and see if they had any specific brewing method for their coffee, and I happened to catch the rest of the information for this coffee by accident. So we'll go into that a little further. Let me talk about Jacu real quick. They're based out of Ålesund, Norway. I hope I said that correctly. I looked up the pronunciation on that one as well. And this coffee has a lot of interesting things. It had a cupping score of 94.5, and when I looked online, I believe that this coffee was a little over $50 for a 250 gram bag of coffee. So I wanted to give a huge shout out and major props to Jacu for including a really, well, what is their most expensive and special coffee on their website from what I saw in the Advent Calendar, so people would get to try something really wild and really out there. And let's talk about this coffee, because this coffee was really wild and really out there. Okay, so the first thing I did was when I did my bloom, there was a very strong aroma that was coming from it, and the best way I can describe it was a fermented orange candy. And it reminded me of two things. It reminded me of the La Mandarina that I'd had from Corvus, that really strong orange smell, but it also reminded me of a coffee I'd had from Black and White earlier in the year that tasted very much like a fermented strawberry candy. Striking similarities. So after it was poured and I tried my first sip, it tasted very much like a fermented orange candy for me. And as it cooled down a little bit, the fermented taste was there throughout this coffee. I was definitely getting more of the fleshy fruits, some peaches, nectarines, apricots, all of that very prominent in this coffee, but so was that fermented flavor. And that's what I want to discuss. Was as soon as I got that taste, I looked up the Black and White because I wanted to see which coffee it was from Black and White, if it was also a Colombia. And to my surprise, it was actually a Finca El Paraiso as well. So it was the same coffee, and that one was anaerobic processed. So I'm wondering, because I couldn't find more information on this special fermentation processing, if this one was also anaerobic. Given how similar those coffees tasted with that very strong fermented taste, it made a lot of sense that it was the same coffee, and that was kind of interesting. What I will say about that Black and White coffee was it was probably my least favorite coffee of the entire year. I had such a hard time drinking it, and I gave so much of it to people around me because I just didn't enjoy the flavor. It was way too wild and way too funky for me, and this coffee right here had so many similarities to it. I'm going to go ahead and put up the tasting wheel right now so you can see what I was getting, and as you'll see, the flavors are very extreme. Very sweet, it's very lingering finish, and then I put the stone fruit as high as possible. Almost put the citrus fruit as high as possible, but a lot of that orange taste I was getting tapered off after I poured it. After a few minutes. It's definitely still there, that taste, and the fact that it brings me back so strongly to that Black and White coffee, it's interesting. And I'm 100% honest with this channel, with everything I say. I didn't enjoy this coffee, and I'll be honest about that, and it's that fermented taste and flavor that I can't get over. I couldn't get over it with the Black and White, and I couldn't get over it with this coffee either. I still want to give praise and shout out to Jacu, because I think it's cool that you guys did include this coffee specifically in here, and the fact that people do get to try something so wild and out there, because this shows the range of coffee. This is on the spectrum of what I would call extreme, like really, really wild coffee. And typically I like really, really wild coffee, but again, that fermentation flavor is just a little bit of a sticking point for me personally. But that being said, that's the type of people I would suggest this coffee to, because I did have some people that enjoyed that Black and White, and I'm sure that they would enjoy this Jacu as well. It's really wild, and if you like overly wild coffees, now I'm talking kind of out there, then this is definitely your thing, especially if you like those fleshy fruits. I love the fleshy fruits, I love the wild, but I can't get over that fermentation flavor. I'm looking forward to their second coffee because I will form an opinion of the coffee roastery as a whole on their second coffee, but what I will say is that I just don't like this specific coffee bean and this specific processing method. I don't think it's Jacu, I just think it's that. And I will leave it at that. So if you've tried this coffee, I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well, because I'm sure so many people have different thoughts on this one specifically. And if you're enjoying the content, give this video a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. For this right here has been a review of the Finca El Paraiso Special Fermentation Processed Colombia from Jacu. Thank you for watching.